and something that has actually changed me as a person
I'm
in many
sure.
things in my life. So just in any topic now, you ask questions, you don't take things at face value, you do more, you want to know a bit more information left and right. So that has been the most important lesson for me from that master's. They should be taking it very seriously, because our gut is, when we think of the gut, we just think it's, okay, I'm digesting something, absorbing something, and that's it. But
I'm Farah Shammas. Welcome to Hotel Talk. We hope you enjoy listening to this friendly conversation between people connected by real life in hotels. Hello everyone and welcome to Hotel Talk. Today I have a different guest. First time we've had a certified nutrition therapist of Germany nonetheless, and a nutritional scientist here with us. And how is that connected to hotels? Once again, everyone in the world is connected because of hotels one way or another. And Stephany Piper, who's joining me today, and I actually were on a panel together at Park Lane Hotel not too long ago for the Health and Beauty Forum, discussing microbiome and many other subjects at the time with my non-hotelier hat on, but my plant-based coach hat on. So Stephany, thank you so much. We said from then we've got to do this podcast, and here we are.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about you and why you decided to go into nutrition.
Okay, so I didn't grow up wanting to be a nutritionist. I actually wanted to be a film director.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And we've had Stilana on, who is a film director of the first Netflix.
Oh, yeah?
Being launched on this podcast. So
okay.
Interesting.
Would want to watch that then.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to be a film director, but I didn't get to do that for different reasons. So I was just thinking, it was the last year of school. And I was like, what am I going to do? What do I really enjoy? I like sciences that I know. And I chose all the A levels in science, apart from physics. So I was just thinking, all of the different sciences. And nutrition was very interesting because it's always one of those things where it's constantly changing. You have new recommendations, and then what was previously accepted now is overthrown, and then there's another recommendation. I thought that's very interesting, would want to know more about that. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to study that. It was kind of that direction. And because I'm half German, I went to study in Germany.
Well, tell us a bit about you. Let's go back a bit further. Yeah, so you're half German.
I'm half German, half Cypriot.
Half Cypriot.
Yeah. And grew up here.
Was born here.
Yeah, I was born here in Limassol. I studied in Germany for 6.5 years, and then I came back.
Okay. Studied university. School was all here.
School was all here. Yeah.
And of course you grew up bilingual as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So German, English, Greek. However, because I lost my dad when I was 12 years old, I never really spoke German that much. So I was never confident with my German. I would understand everything. But you don't learn a language when you go once a week to lessons. So when I went to Germany, it was pretty hard. I mean, I would understand everything, but that's when I really learnt it.
Yes.
The language. And even up to this day, I mean, I've been here for 10 years now. I've forgotten many things, if you don't speak something all the time.
Yeah. So
I would say Greek, English are my strong languages, and German I know really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's safe to say. So
you studied that. It took you 6.5 years, the courses.
It was 6.5. Actually, it was 6 years. Like a half year was transitioning from one university to the other. Because I started off at a practical university and then I ended up at a research-based university. So I also had to catch up a little bit with some things.
Well, the reason I say wow, 6.5 years is, I mean, that's very in-depth. That's, really a lot of knowledge can be acquired in that time. So
yeah, because
that's remarkable.
Nutrition, there's different aspects of nutrition. You can go into nutrition in many different ways. You can see patients, so you go into the clinical part, and that's more practical, even though, of course, you're trained to have knowledge in research and studies and so on. But it's a practically oriented job unless you actually deliberately go into research. So I started off that way in health and counseling in Germany. And I did my practical training at the Charité. So it's a very large scale hospital, university hospital. Did my practical training working with patients. Then I was very much interested in the research side. So I went into molecular nutrition science in my master's. That's very in depth.
Yeah.
That's much more in depth. And it was at the Technical University of Munich in Germany, which is considered one of the, best universities in Germany. There are also other very good universities. It's considered very good in the research side. And I was just really determined to go there because I just thought it was so exciting to learn more, about how this really works and not just stay on the surface. And that was really difficult in the beginning, but also very rewarding because you understand things very differently when you go into so much depth. And one of the things that I think was the most important from that experience was not just learning the theory, but to develop critical thinking. Developing critical thinking was something that we were encouraged to do all the time in all our subjects, and something that has actually changed me as a person in many things in my life. So just in any topic now, you ask questions, you don't take things at face value. You want to know a bit more information left and right. So that has been the most important lesson for me from that master's. Yeah.
And I'm sure the whole move anyway from Cyprus to Germany was just a huge decision, a huge part of your life. It must have changed you.
It wasn't a huge decision, to be honest.
No?
For me, it was clear. For me, it was always, I want to go to Germany. That was it.
But it's not just that, though. I think studying anywhere, you meet different people, you see different cultures. Even if you're used to that culture and you are half German, it's still a big thing. It's still a massive change from being a child in Cyprus to entering adulthood in Germany.
Definitely, because we're very different. From the Mediterranean, you grow up with very different mentality and you're just much more, hugs here, kisses there.
Yeah.
And in Germany, it's very different. But I learned so many things in Germany. So now I got the best of both worlds, I think. Yeah. So I'm just more organized in some things and I have more critical thinking and a better work ethic. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for the experiences I had there.
Definitely. That's what my mum always said, being a mixture of so many cultures. She just said, look at them all and take the best from all of them, whatever you can. So true. So what's the favorite part of your job now? I mean, you've been working now 10 years.
Yeah.
So you must have seen lots of different clients, had lots of different exciting projects on. What's been your favorite part?
There's many different things I like about my job. There's two things that stand out. First and foremost is the relationships that I build with people, with my clients and my patients. I feel that I really love them, everyone, and I mean it, because people come in and you connect on an intimate level many times. So you're not just talking about nutrients and what you should be eating, but, there's a reason why people gain weight. There's a reason why people have developed a certain disease, and people talk about that. Many times it's stress, and that leads to bad nutrition habits and
also just physically bad digestion. You know, when you're ultra stressed, not sleeping properly or
So people open up about even their families and their work, and I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not, I'm just listening. But that creates an intimate connection with people. And especially when, you hear them come back after years because now they have a new problem they have to deal with and they want to come back to you, that's very rewarding for me. So that's the most important part of my job, I think, I would say. very, very
People.
fulfilling part of my job. And the other thing is that, again, having done the research-based masters and having understood things at a deeper level, I love sharing that. So I like to explain a lot. And the first appointment is 1.5 hours because I'm just getting a lot of information and explaining. Nutrition education is very important because it makes a client or a patient more compliant. So they follow your advice when they understand it. So explaining for me is very important.
Interesting. Yeah, that's so nice. So let's get a little bit more then into the topic of nutrition. I have several different aspects I'd like to discuss, but let's go with counting calories.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in my head, I always laugh that that's something of the 90s and we have to move on from that. But what's your take from that? And what is the best way that someone can be healthy? I mean, there's no one solution fits all, but let's talk about healthy living and specifically the counting calories phenomenon that we still see so many people talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, calories is a big topic because there is a lot of research on calories in, calories out, and how that does lead to weight loss or weight gain. However, I only count calories when I need to work with a clinical case that needs, for example, enteral nutrition. In that case, you do need to make some calculations. But if that's not the case, and we're just talking about someone that is eating normally and they're dealing with a health issue, they just want to lose weight, I rarely count calories. Rarely. Hardly ever, actually. For me, it's more about the combinations to keep your blood sugar stable, to get enough fiber in your diet, work on your gut microbiota, which is very well linked to good health. And also, when you eat very few calories, many times you might not be eating enough protein. That decreases your muscle mass, which decreases your metabolism. And then you hit a plateau, and then it's easier to gain weight again. But even if, let's say, your calories are low with enough protein, you're teaching your body to not work on calories. So it's adjusting there. And then once you have more calories, it can't keep up with you. So you do gain weight in that time until you increase your metabolism again. So actually training your body to accept calories, but of course, the right kinds of foods, the quality of your food, the right combinations to keep your blood sugar stable and so on. Yeah.
I think there's quite a lot of research that's come out recently as well. Like a calorie isn't a calorie. If you have that same calorie at 9 o'clock at night, it's very different than if you have it at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly. And also calories from avocado, for example, or from cheese, or if you have 500 calories or 100 calories from cheese or avocado or red meat or processed meat or chicken or rice or potato, many different things will happen in your body. It's not the same.
Yeah.
So calories definitely play a role to a certain point, definitely, and can be useful in some situations. But overall, I think that it's important to not focus too much on that and focus more on quality of your food and combinations, eating regularly, eating properly, keeping your blood sugar stable, focusing on the right fats, on fibers.
That's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I know a lot of listeners now will be thinking, ideal weight. Like, what is the ideal weight? And obviously it varies, but for me, it's like, what does that even look like? I have some friends who look fabulous with their curves and they are confident and they're beautiful and that's their perfect weight. And they'll always go back to that. Others that eat a lot and are like Twiggy. Others that have a bit of a belly. I mean, what is the ideal weight and where should we be looking for that within, for ourselves?
Okay. So there's many websites that ask for your age, your sex, and your height. And then you get an ideal weight. And of course, that's wrong because it doesn't take into account your bone density, how heavy your bone structure is. It doesn't take into account if you're just a person that puts on muscle mass easily or not. different things like that. So I think my ideal weight in these calculations is 60 or above. And that's obviously wrong because I've never been 60. And vice versa in other situations. Most importantly is, how is your body composition? That's more important. So do you have a good muscle mass? Or have you targeted your fat loss, brought it down to the normal level? And how are your body fluids? So do you have water retention? Are you well hydrated? That's what we should be asking. Now, in terms of what's the ideal weight, it also has to do with how are your blood tests? So how's your cholesterol? How's your blood sugar? And so on and so forth. How do you feel physically? And when we're just looking at the looks factor, then, this is a little bit of a controversial discussion sometimes because I do not.
One.
I personally do not agree that if you are very overweight, that is, you should just accept that if your blood tests are not okay. Okay, if your blood tests are great, and if you feel great, then fine, fair enough. But if not, I mean, it's first and foremost, it's about health.
Yeah, we shouldn't be promoting. We should be promoting acceptance, but also loving ourselves to the degree that we want to preserve ourselves and our body and our health. Not, we want to eat pizza all day and donuts, and it's okay if we're 50 kilos overweight. We should own our bodies. There's no body shaming, but you should be the best version of yourselves, and you can be better than that. If your cholesterol's through the roof, then
exactly. So
get that
I think
down.
That's very important to not have this like bully other people or make them feel less than, or all these things can create a lot of pain for someone. So very important to be respectful to the other person, regardless. But I'm talking about the health aspect.
Yeah. And also it goes the other way. I always keen to point that out, having 3 children who are, and they're not all vegan, but they're very slim. Their natural body type is slim, and they really eat. And I've seen it the other way, like, where's your muscles? Why are your arms so slim? Why are you? And they're, growing children. And so that body shaming can go both ways.
Yes.
It's not just about being the overweight. It's any whatever. If people are tall, if they're short, if they've got big hips, if they've, everybody, should just, be allowed to be them and be a healthy version of themselves.
Yes. So, I think it's not important to look a certain way, or this is how you should look, this is how slim you should look. No, there's actually many women, I say this to clients as well, that I think that you won't look good if you look thinner. I think that you're the type of woman that it's nice to have a few curves, but I'm always focusing on the health aspect. So whatever I say is always coming from the health aspect. Let's make sure that your blood tests are in the right range, how we can improve them. And if we get there and your blood tests are good,
do you wake up feeling energetic? Do you sleep well? Do you,
Yeah. And also, we can't be perfect. We're always going to have a bit of cellulite and things like that. And I think we have to just accept that as women.
Definitely,
lower our standards a little bit.
And the same goes for men. They might have a little bit of a tummy, and that's okay. But it's just to be healthy. That's the thing. That's my, my whole thing, health and happiness. So tell us a little bit about the tests that you do, because I mean, being a nutritional scientist, you're quite keen on the data, and I'm really analyzing all the different aspects of any client that comes to see you. It's not just like, okay, well, you want to lose 5 kilos, let's, go away and eat some apples. It's like, no, let's look at, the best version of yourselves. How do you get that data? How do you analyze it? Tell us a bit about the tests.
Okay, so I don't do any tests myself.
Okay.
Just to be clear, As a certified nutrition therapist, it's part of the health system. So we work together with doctors.
Okay.
And so if I need anything, I would send someone to the doctor. They would do their blood tests based on what the doctor would also need. sometimes I might say, this might be important. Can you please ask your doctor if you can do that? And then based on their blood tests or their diagnosis, I do my work.
Yeah.
Speaking of tests, though, there's because I specialize or have had most of my experience in my training in food allergies and intolerances, gastrointestinal disorders, weight management, and recently nutrition psychology as well, which I'll get into later.
Wow. Okay.
But because many people do come for, bloating, or they feel that foods are bothering them, they ask about intolerance tests a lot. If they or they've done it already.
Yeah, interesting topic. And then there's so many tests out there.
There's so many tests. Yeah, there's so many tests. One of the common ones is the IgG blood test. And I want to take the opportunity to expand on this a little bit because it's important.
Do.
Okay. So first of all, we don't, it's not scientifically validated. It's not based on any reliable scientific evidence.
Okay.
And in order for someone to understand why, I'll expand a little bit on it first. So when you're looking for something that you might be allergic to, you would look for antibodies to those foods. So that would be a food allergy, and then you would specifically look for IgE antibodies. An intolerance, however, so that would be an immune reaction. An intolerance, however, has nothing to do with an immune reaction. You're not producing antibodies. It's either an enzyme deficiency or pharmacological effects, for example. Therefore, just by the name of it, an IgG, so antibody for something, intolerance test makes no sense as a title to begin with. So IgG antibodies are not something we would test for a food allergy either. We have different antibodies, IgA, IgM, IgE, IgG, and so on, all for different reasons. It's not food related, IgE, as in terms of a food allergy. Sometimes we might even be producing antibodies because we come in contact with certain foods. And that would be normal because when you eat something, it goes through your digestive system. Your digestive system is the first contact with the outside world. So with anything that is external, like food, for example, that's why about 70% of the immune system is found in the gut. And so it's normal that we would produce some antibodies, and these are most likely the IgG antibodies. That's why some people go do these tests and they say, oh, the exact foods that I'm eating very often are the ones that I have high IgG antibodies for. And then they remove those foods, but not only those foods, usually always you have to remove gluten and dairy, and you will feel better when you remove gluten and dairy anyway. But you've also removed many unnecessary foods that you might not have a problem with. And now, as you very well know, you're reducing fibers and other important nutrients that could affect the health of your gut microbiota. So if you do this for too long, over time, it will have a negative effect. Yeah. So I always advise against these tests.
So what should people do? Because people, they love it. It's like the new thing. I'm intolerant. People love it. So
what you should do,
if they're feeling like I'm intolerant, I feel I get bloated all the time and I need this test.
Yeah.
What should they do?
Okay. Well, first of all, you take a thorough diet history. And then you see the blood tests and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's just because someone is very irregular with their diet. So you have to start with the basics. How is someone eating every day? Are they eating even healthy but very irregular? Are they very stressed? Are they eating once one day, eating 5 times the next day? This irregularity can cause bloating in itself and irregular bowel movements. So first of all, you're not really going to focus on too much detail in that case. You're going to first try and tidy up the diet and then see how the person responds.
From everything, even if they're sitting down when they eat, to standing up, to eating
so
on
just
the go,
start from the simple things. And then if you do that and then it still persists, or if someone generally is eating regularly and healthy and they still have these issues, then you would try and see what could be the culprits. So you will ask them different questions. For example, how do you feel when you're eating salads, specific veggies, or specific fruits that may be high in fructose, for example, or with the peels on or not. So is it the fibers that's the problem, or is it fructose that's the problem? Is it the lactose? Maybe some people feel okay with mature cheeses, but not with fresh cheeses or soft cheeses. So there's many different things you can ask. And then you start removing those for a little while, usually 3 to 4 weeks, give and take, in order to see if people have an improvement. If someone has an improvement, then something from all those things you've removed bothers them. And you have to now find out what that is. It's usually not everything. Could be just some things. So you put them back in the diet one by one, and then you start to see how the signs and the symptoms are, and you build the diet again. But that's a little bit, it takes some time, and you have to be patient. You have to do things right. But it's the only right way to do it. And you can also do an H2 breath test, for example, to see if you have, for example, a lactose intolerance. But that would be the gold standard diagnosis to know if you have one. But is it really necessary in practice? Not really, or at least not usually, because you can just remove lactose, see if you feel better, and then test your threshold. And that works very well too.
Yeah, I'll add that most people are lactose intolerant, but that's my, But yes, it's interesting. Actually, I was very lucky because 20 years ago now, when I had IBS and it was at probably its worst, and my gastro doctor, actually gastroenterologist, is it? He said what you're saying, which back then he was like, takes everything out of your diet that seems to be bothering you and introduce it slowly. And this isn't going to be an overnight cure. It's going to be 6 months. It's going to be more. And you'll see.
It doesn't take that long usually.
And then
it doesn't take that long.
I think I was quite bad and I had ulcers, and so it was I think that's why it was more. But yeah, and it was a slow process, but it helped. And he also, everyone else was saying don't eat fruits and veg. And he was like, have you heard anywhere in the world that fruits and veg are bad for you? No, you eat them.
Yeah.
And you see when you get a reaction. And also, a reaction doesn't mean you'll have a reaction forever.
Yeah.
Just might mean at that time,
there's cofactors as well.
Yeah.
Like if you're very stressed, for example, and then you eat something, you might react. But on a day that you feel calm and you eat the same thing, you might be okay.
Yeah.
So that's why with my clients, we work with the nutrition protocol, and I also have a section on external factors.
Okay.
Because if that comes together with an external factor, then we have to test it again so that we're not removing unnecessary things.
Amazing. And do they have a food diary or?
Yeah, well, you can name it a food diary as well. And I would also like to stress at this point that people should not be doing elimination diets on their own or without proper guidance, at least. Because if you just eliminate things, you might be eliminating the wrong things.
Yeah.
You might be eliminating unnecessary things and then
becoming nutrient deficient as well.
Exactly.
So microbiome, the hot topic of the moment, it's everywhere. We've mentioned it a little bit in this podcast. How seriously should we be taking this? And what would you like people listening to you now to take away from this episode on microbiome? Yeah.
They should be taking it very seriously, because our gut is, when we think of the gut, we just think it's, okay, I'm digesting something, absorbing something, and that's it. But the gut has so many different functions, and it's so important. And your health many times is connected to your gut in some way or the other. So we know that the gut microbiota is very, very highly affected by eating certain fibers and a high diversity of fibers that are considered prebiotics specifically as well, but also fibers overall. They even if they're not prebiotics, they help with the regularity of your bowel. So some of them, they help with diarrhea, others with constipation, some with both, and that's also connected with good gut health.
And maybe you could explain, because a lot of people, well, they ask me and they get confused, the probiotics and prebiotics.
Okay. So before I answer that, I'll give a little bit of background.
Okay.
So your gut microbiota is very specific for you, like a fingerprint, I like to say. And that means that we have many different kinds of bacteria, trillions. But which ones and what numbers each person needs is very individual. So like a fingerprint. So that's why, again, opportunity to say that gut microbiota tests are not advised, because we don't have a standard of what is a healthy gut microbiota. So a probiotic is basically a little pill filled with specific bacteria. And on average, it has, I think, about 10 to 30 different types, let's say, give or take. And in your bowels, you have much more than that. I think minimum 300 different kinds. So if I don't know what I specifically need, how do I know that this probiotic will help me? Probiotics are effective for ulcerative colitis, for constipation, for IBS. And they're specific probiotics as well. So specific strains of bacteria. If you suffer from these conditions, then a probiotic can help you. If not, then it's like playing roulette. How do I know that's going to help me? Actually, most studies have shown that they have no benefit.
Or they could be,
or you might just be lucky and you just needed that specific strain or strains and it helped you.
Could it also be counterproductive?
I don't think it would be counterproductive.
Because I've read some studies where it's not, because there may be the certain bacteria it's feeding are growing and then it's not letting the ones you actually need grow.
I think that also depends on your diet as well. Yeah. Because if you're having a diet with a high amount of fibers that help the butyrate building bacteria strengthen your gut barrier, then so I think it's difficult to just give a straightforward answer. Probably depends on the diet of each person. Or some people might take probiotics and they feel like they bloat, or also you need some time to adjust the probiotics. But I'm not so sure about if it has a negative effect. What I can answer for sure is what the studies have shown so far, that for certain conditions they can help. Then you also have to take that specific probiotic for that condition.
But then someone could say, well, then there's no harm taking them. I might as well take them.
I don't know what to say to that.
Maybe not. So, okay. So if somebody wants to, they're aware, my microbiome is important. What can I do to make it healthy?
Yeah. Prebiotics, definitely. Fibers, definitely. So even though we don't know what each person exactly needs, what we do know is that a very high diversity of different kinds of bacteria is linked to good health, to good gut health. How do you get a high diversity? By bringing in the prebiotics, by bringing a high diversity of different fibers. So
and eating prebiotics, not just taking pills.
Eating foods that have prebiotics and different fibers, because the higher the diversity of your fibers, there's more chance that you will increase the diversity of your good gut bacteria as well. So, rotating your veggies is very important, not just sticking to one kind because it's healthy. Because
having a variety. Eat the rainbow.
Exactly. Yeah.
30 different types a week. That's the ideal. So on that note, let's go on to a little bit of a controversial one, at least in my book, coming from a plant-based background. And that's sort of the carnivore diet. So I often get that thrown at me. I think we did even in our talk, didn't we? When we were on a panel together. There are the miracle diets of everything. Somebody is suffering from whatever and they've gone plant-based, or they've gone carnivore, or they've gone onto water cleanses, or they've gone juicing, or there's a million different diets out there, keto, paleo. But let's talk about the carnivore. Should anyone be looking at a fiberless diet? What are the long-term effects of that, and why do they see such drastic, maybe positive results, recovering from diabetes or whatever it is? Tell us a little bit.
Carnivore diet. When I heard about it first time, like, you hear about so many different things all the time, and you don't take them that seriously, because unless something has been studied well and you have enough time pass to see the long-term effects, then I'm not really going to focus on something like that. We work with things that have been studied well in practice. But because many people have been asking lately, I thought, okay, I'll look into it a little bit more to give a better answer on why I think it's not a good idea. I mean, for different reasons. But having said that, if in the future studies show that it is beneficial, then okay. But there's two problems with that. The one problem is the ethical aspect. So still, it's not something that I would do, even if long-term studies show that it is beneficial, just because of the ethical aspect, number one. Number two, the environmental aspect. Especially at a time now that we're going through
global warming,
significant
climate crisis.
Changes. So, and one of the biggest factors, or with a very high carbon footprint, is beef, meat production. So is that something you want to be recommending generally? But other than that, though, there's no long-term studies on the carnivore diet. It's just an expert opinion. And that's not any level of evidence.
And I think we discussed it a little bit on the panel as well, in that, some people might see some short-term alleviation of symptoms, but that's because there's nothing aggravating any symptom that they had. So suddenly they've got a very easy kind of digestion path. But that doesn't mean in the long term their microbiome is dying, their immunity is dying, everything's, potentially going wrong long term. So it's quite interesting.
I definitely would not. I definitely don't agree with it. Definitely. I mean, regardless if someone has good blood tests in the beginning, what matters is long term what's happening. All we know is that I wouldn't agree with it for reasons I said, but also there's too much research on the benefits of fiber. So why would I want to remove that? There's different levels of evidence. There's a hierarchy in nutrition studies. And if you have controlled clinical trials, for example, and you have a meta-analysis and a systematic review on many of those, then you have a very high level of evidence. And we've seen that there was a systematic review and a meta-analysis on controlled trials that showed that if you substitute even a third of your animal protein with plant protein, then your insulin levels and your diabetes improve significantly. That's a high level of evidence. So, and plant protein comes together with fiber. So we go back to fiber as well. Also, we see cardiovascular disease mortality and diabetes as well, type 2, being linked again to high meat consumption or animal protein consumption. There's many studies, also prospective studies as well. Take cancer risk, for example. Prospective studies, again, meta-analysis, so many prospective studies. It's generally accepted that red meat is a probable carcinogen and processed meat is indeed a carcinogen. So we should be reducing our red meat consumption. And in the carnivore diet, you're not just eating chicken, you're eating a lot of red meat and high-fat meats as well. So the research so far points in a very different direction.
Guys, this was not rehearsed before.
No.
Stephany wasn't nudged or given some money from me to say that. So thank you so much for sharing
I'm following international guidelines.
There you go. So I think, oh my goodness, we could go on. I love the subject of nutrition, but we will talk about it more when we meet other times. Let's go into your favorite quote now. Do you have a favorite quote? And if you do, what is it?
I don't have a favorite quote, but I have a favorite Bible verse.
Okay.
And that is love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah. Love thy neighbor as yourself.
And the reason I love that very much is because everyone's so trying to prove who's right, who's wrong. And we create so much unnecessary pain and rejection towards each other, when actually this is considered one of the most important commandments and teachings both in the Old and the New Testament. So if we simplify things a little bit, then I'm not saying that because I represent that well,
Yeah.
but it's a learning curve
but
for
we all do our
everyone.
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be reminded of sentiments like that are so important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just kindness, to be kind. Kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Love yourself enough, and then love others.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Now, bonus question. I think I'm running out, but pick any piece of paper you like. I'll read it to you.
Okay. There you go.
I always try and get it back. So this is from Christoforos in our maintenance team. Thank you, Christoforo. If you could turn time back, what is the one thing you would change?
Oh, wow. That's a deep one.
That's a loaded question.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That I would have tried to be kinder to some people. That just goes back to my favorite verse, and that we're always trying to improve ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we, fail, just try better next time.
Yeah. And also, I think that verse also just reminds us to be kind. So even if we have regrets, we shouldn't really. We should take those as lessons, and then just move forward in a kinder way. So to change something, you can't change it. So you change how you view the past.
Yeah.
Stephany, thank you so much. This has been fabulous.
Thank you so much for having me.
Has been unpacked in this episode. I love it. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much.
And hope to see a lot more of you at San Rafael.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We hope that you're enjoying Hotel Talk, and I'd like to remind you guys, please, to click that subscribe button. It helps us more than you may realize, and any likes or comments that you can give us on any platform would be highly appreciated because it helps us get heard and more exposure. Don't forget to hop along to St. Raphael Resorts and Marina's website. Join us on our journey with our Seahorse Club, where you can get exclusive offers and so much more. Or you can email our team directly, quoting Hotel Talk, to receive an exclusive discount on your next stay with us in Limassol, Cyprus. We'll see you all soon, and feedback is more than welcome. Thank you for being part of this journey.